TVC News, first with breaking news.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Edge on TV, Nigeria's leading initiative in the business of brand management and the management of brand business. The program is a 30-minute awesome package that comprises brand news, brand focus, and industry conversation, all in a mix encompassing thorough and in-depth analysis aimed at promoting the brand idea. I am Oluwabukola Omoni. Stay tuned.
Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the brand idea.
We kick off with brand news, where we'll bring you the latest developments around brands and the field of marketing and advertising in Nigeria and around the world. Now on brand news. With a groundbreaking move, strategic vision, and innovative approaches, the Nigerian Marketing Research Association NIMRA has charted a new path and improving the value of the tech-driven marketing research industry in Nigeria that works in tandem with global best practices. These efforts are not only focused on bridging the wide gap between traditional marketing practices and the rapidly evolving tech-driven landscape. They are also aimed at empowering marketing research businesses to thrive and making the professional body a driving force behind reshaping the marketing ecosystem. Speaking at the swearing-in ceremony of the new executive members of the association in Ikadra, its pioneer president, Mr. Shola Akinagbe, Chief Executive Officer, Market Research Consultancy Limited, said the body has embarked on training and retraining of its members with both local and international resource persons to ensure that a new crop of market researchers are well-groomed, technologically and digitally literate. The Advertisers Association of Nigeria, ADVAN, through its Nigerian Marketing Development Team, has entered into partnership with Pan-Atlantic University, PAU, School of Media and Communication, to explore public-private collaboration in the marketing industry. To this end, an industry dialogue on the theme Public-Private Collaboration in the Marketing Industry has been scheduled for May 10 in Ikadra, Lagos. According to Advan in a statement, the event will focus on fostering public-private collaboration to drive sustainable economic growth through the marketing and advertising sector. The marketing development team also disclosed that renowned scholar Professor Olufemi Shaibu, the Director of Quality Assurance and Servicom Unit and Pioneer Director of the Institute of Nigerian China Development Studies at the University of Lagos, will lead the conversation as the keynote speaker alongside other industry thought leaders. For Nigeria to reap maximum benefits from the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, has identified the ability of local manufacturers to compete around the continent as key to gaining market access under the deal. The association lamented over various factors that have constrained the competitiveness of the sector, warning that without tackling them, the country would be at a disadvantage under the Continental Trade Deal. Director General of MAN, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadri, said that the manufacturing sector has not had the microeconomic and infrastructure support needed for growth and the ability to compete. He added that the sector is already beset with multidimensional challenges. Chairman of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria's Export Promotion Group, Mrs. Odiri Erewa Megison, said player exports compete on a global scale without a deliberate intervention from the government, and that exporters need deliberate interventions such as access to loans at right rates, support with eliminating administrative bottlenecks, and multiple regulatory checks by different regulators. The global quick service restaurants market size is expected to expand to $1,777.97 billion by 2030, exhibiting a compound annual growth rate of 11.18% during the focus period. This is against its previous projection, which was valued at $763.42 billion in 2022, with an expectation to move to $846.75 billion in 2023. Fortune Business Insights, in its analysis, reveals that the food delivery business has seen rapid growth recently with a rise in food delivery websites and applications. The report, in its observation, shows that QSRs have an edge in competition by providing faster service than traditional restaurants through new and advanced delivery systems, which offer quicker service that allow consumers to have food at home with less waiting time. Next is Branding Focus after the break.
Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the bright idea.
Now on Branding Focus. As a way of creating awareness and expressing their value propositions, businesses around the world rely on advertisements to promote their brands, products, and services. Since it began its commercial operations, MTN Nigeria's creative journey has been a memorable one in the annals of the country's advertising landscape. In the streets, thoroughfares and highways of Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt, MTN advertising activities commenced even before the official launch of the corporate brand with yellow, its brand color, adorning below-the-line materials, billboards, and T-shirts. In 2001, MTN Nigeria's creative campaign program captured the national mood with its first television commercial, Rising Sun, by TBWA Concert. The advert shows a nation waking up to a new day with the sun rising brightly into a beautiful sky. The commercial connected Nigerians with a tagline, "Achieve what you want to achieve." The creative account, after being won by Omnicom at the global level, was handed to its Nigerian affiliate, TBWA Concept, but shared with SONU. In its trajectory, other creative agencies like DDB, Red Brick, and many more have played major roles. With a total active customer base of 76.7 million as of 2023, MTN's influence in the Nigerian telecom space cannot be overstated. In 2004, MTN unveiled an iconic campaign tagged Sunshine, created by SONU, Nigeria's creative powerhouse. Sunshine was a sub-theme under Life is Beautiful, a teaser campaign, while MTN Life is Beautiful commercial features a couple who are in different parts of the world and are able to reach out to one another because of MTN's connection. Also, MTN's Sharp Guy campaign, another creation of SONU, features a student in a tertiary institution who makes advances to a young lady, requests for a phone number, which she repeatedly turns down. In MTN's Na Boy TV commercial, the joy of grandmotherhood doesn't need an explanation. The campaign opens with images of a fast-spread jubilation among the young, sleeping, and market trading populace in the community. In 2021, MTN launched a 2-minute thematic TV commercial, We Move, by SPV Communication Solutions, which created a storyline resonating with the hopes and aspirations of Nigerians. The thrust of the campaign was hinged on the MTN Group's brand strategy of progress and focused on urging Nigerians to look inwards for opportunities for progress that abound within their contemporary situations. By looking inwards, the Nigerian youth in the TV commercial was able to discover a skill he already had, and instead of remaining downcast by his current situation, he decided to monetize his already existing skills. Recently, M&C Saatchi Africa became the marketing communications partner across all MTN Group operating companies, and its Nigerian affiliate, SONU Group, is now responsible for MTN business in Nigeria. For now, it is not certain what the size of MTN Nigeria's media account is, but media monitoring agencies have maintained that MTN is one of the biggest spenders in the industry, and this new partnership effectively puts SONU back in the elite club as one of the biggest creative agencies in Nigeria. The return of the big brand to SONU is quite a good one for both the brand and the agency, as they are both in a familiar embrace and terrain. The agency, at once in the annals of the brand's creative journey, created award-winning campaigns. These campaigns had resonated very well with the brand's target audience through top-of-mind awareness among Nigerians, and new honeymoon beckons, even as the new marriage promises to be mutually beneficial.
Welcome back. Next is Industry Conversation, where we have discussions with industry thought leaders. Today we'll be having the concluding part of our conversation with the former commercial director of TVC Communications, Mr. Ronan Redmond. Join me after the break.
Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the bright idea.
Welcome back to Industry Conversation. Like I mentioned earlier, my guest today is one who has recorded landmark achievements in the Nigerian media industry. He is the former commercial director of TVC Communications, Mr. Ronan Redmond. What would you say, or how would you say Nigeria has fared in terms of regulations and the media landscape?
Well, I think, look, regulation is incredibly important. Regulation is even more important now as digital becomes such a player in the space. But I differentiate in my job, which is commercial. I differentiate between editorial regulation and commercial regulation. Okay. I'm all for editorial regulation when it comes to the likes of online and what people can say and get away with, etc., and the whole area of fake news. My real concern when it comes to regulation in this market is, am I sure that the regulators are keeping abreast of the developments in the commercial media landscape? So many media companies now rely on advertising to simply keep their businesses going. It's not good enough to regulate me the way you regulated me 7 to 10 years ago. If I can't offer some of the initiatives we spoke about earlier, whether it's sponsorship, product placement, guest appearances, etc., if I can't offer that, well, then those advertisers will move to DSTV because they're not in the same regulation space as I am when it comes to what's appearing on air. So the regulator, and I'm not sure that they need to keep a pace with what's happening commercially. And I see it in particular in the whole streaming space. The big development in America, and we're going to see it here pretty quickly, is the realization that the streaming model, the subscription, where you pay a subscription, that model doesn't work commercially because people can't afford to have 4 or 5 different stream. I can't afford to have Paramount, Disney, Netflix, etc. I will pick and choose. So what those companies are doing is say, okay, we've got to give a cheaper model, and the way we'll fund that is through advertising. So streaming funded by advertising is going to become the next big, I believe, media ecosystem. And how is the regulator going to even address that? So my fear is they're not keeping abreast with what's the huge changes that are happening, and that they're going back to former templates. And that doesn't serve those of us who are trying to make an honest living in the media space. That doesn't serve us well. I'm all for regulation. I'm all for editorial regulation, as I said, in the online space, etc. And we're seeing huge work in Europe on that. But I have real concerns, and I plead with the regulator to work with the industry stakeholders to keep abreast of the commercial developments.
When Ronan Redmond is mentioned in the Nigeria media industry, what would you want it to be about? What would you want your name to be remembered for in the industry?
I don't need my name to be remembered at all. However, very quickly, I think why I stayed as long as I did is because personally I love interaction, and I realized very quickly that I believe the Irish and the Nigerian personalities are very similar. We enjoy face-to-face business communication. That's what I enjoy. All of my work was spent outside the office, meeting key clients or looking for new clients and advertisers, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I would hope that those people I met in that time would remember me as somebody who was possibly empathetic. I understood the tough environment we were all operating in, and no matter what market I operate in, my premise is always to try and deal with you on a win-win basis. Yes, I will always need something out of our negotiation, but I fully understand that you too need to walk away from that with something as well. And I would hope that that's how people might remember me, because I don't believe prior to my arrival that's how people saw TVC, but hopefully that legacy will continue.
Great. So what would be your advice for the new commercial director at TVC? I know you are the former commercial director. What would be your advice for the new?
Yeah, it's I've always said it over the 7 years. We work in an incredibly simple business. The metrics are really simple. The consumer's at the center of everything we do, so we've got to look after our audiences. If we look after our audiences, the advertisers will come. But within all that, what I would say to the management, and this is where I got most enjoyment, is in the media industry, whether it's TVC, whether it's any other media company, it's your people are your assets, and it is a young person's business, and young people need to be given their voice. They need to be allowed to make mistakes, and they need to be able to learn from those mistakes. And thereafter, it becomes a very rewarding business, I believe, for anyone to work in.
Great. So what would be your pattern shirts for TVC or to TVC and the Nigerian media industry generally?
Look, I'm just filled with huge admiration for the practitioners in the media business. It's been a tough number of years all around the world, certainly. So it has been tough around the world, but it's been incredibly tough in this market. We've seen lots of different developments which have impacted on the consumer, which have impacted on the media companies, and yet through all of that, the resilience, the innovation, and just the sheer will to do the job that I've seen here really, really leaves me with very, very fond memories. But that's one thing. I fully believe that Nigeria continues to have incredible potential in the media, in the wider media and entertainment space, whether it's Nollywood, whether it's advertising, whether it's media, whether it's all of that ecosystem. And the reason it has is because of the size and the scale of the young population. And remember, it's always that young consumer population who are now consuming their media across many different devices. That is the population, or that's the consumer that those brands are trying to get to. So it's a very exciting market when the economic conditions come around, which I've no doubt they will. Nigeria stands in a really good position, and I'm very, very excited by the journey Nigeria has in front of it, certainly in the media and entertainment space.
Okay, so would you, if given a new opportunity, would you be willing to come back to Nigeria, into the media and advertising space? Not come back in, but Nigeria will form. I will stay on the continent of Africa.
I will work with companies who need to upscale in markets across Africa. Nigeria is possibly the biggest market. So regardless whether I want to or not, Nigeria is going to be on my radar, simply because the people who I will work with going forward will see it as a market that they need to be involved with. And for that reason, you ain't getting rid of me so quickly.
That sounds very interesting. Okay, so you have given a lot to the Nigerian media landscape. What would you say are some of the takeaways for you?
I think we have possibly covered them insofar as I don't believe I've given a lot, other than sometimes when you come from the outside, all it affords you to do is be a little bit dispassionate. When you're looking at something, you see it a little bit differently because you haven't been involved in the day-to-day. The one thing I would say is I still believe there's a job to be done for the different stakeholders in the industry to come together, because I believe there's strength in numbers. At the moment, and it's understandable, when the macroeconomic conditions are so tough, we all just put our head down and we focus on our own area of expertise. I mentioned to you earlier, if Nollywood, if the media agencies, if the advertisers, if that whole ecosystem was able to come together and demonstrate the revenue they generate every year, the contribution they make to GDP, well then I believe the media and entertainment space, which is what we've just been talking about, could make a case to the federal government as to how that can be as important as agri, as fintech, when the government is looking for alternative sectors to the dependence that they've had on oil and gas. But we have to come together as a group. Too often I read in Business Day or other publications, Nollywood is worth this, media is worth that. We need to find one number that covers all of that, that demonstrates the strength it has, and then the stakeholders take interest, and then we can say to the stakeholders, you need to invest back in this sector, you need to give us tax breaks, you need to give us lighter regulation, you need to make the environment such that we can operate to the best of our abilities, and we will contribute to GDP, and that's what I believe.
Wow, that's quite up. Now, taking a bow, and you mentioned earlier that your contract was supposed to be for 3 weeks.
It was.
But it is spanned over 7 years. Now, how would you describe Nigerians and their, social relations to foreigners, in your experience?
In my experience, well, the first thing I did when I came here was I learned from one of the ministers that I met, that very quickly I need to tell people I'm Irish, I'm not English. He said, look, you go a long way if you tell people you're Irish and not English. So I learned that very quickly. So for 7 years I've been saying I'm Irish. On a more serious note, I'm all about local. I'm all about the mix of global and local. And I have worked in other European markets, and what I'd learned from those and what I try to bring here is you can never, as a non-national, come somewhere and try and impose your way of thinking. All I have done in Nigeria is used my years of experience in other markets and married them to the very best of what's here in Nigeria.
Great. Okay, so tell us, what are some of the fond memories you have of Nigeria?
The people. It's the people. It is the people. The people are what will leave the lasting impression with me. They will be the memories, the fun we've had. They will be the memories. It's the people all the way.
Okay, so just before I let you go, what is next for Ronan Redmond?
Ronan Redmond is going to go back to South Africa, where I live in Cape Town. I'm going to reintroduce myself to my wife and my 2 children, and I'm going to hope that they accept me back in the fold, and then I'll take it from there. I'm sure they'll have plenty of jobs. On our work front, I will continue to work with companies in the media and entertainment space across sub-Saharan Africa, so we will cross paths again.
Wow, it has been an absolute joy speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Great. And that's the much we can take on this week's episode of Marketing Edge on TV. Join us same time next week for another informative episode. I am Oluwabukola Omoni. Bye for now.